What does fulfillment really mean and entail? So, fulfillment in the context of logistics and e-commerce refers to the process of receiving, processing, picking and packing, and shipping orders out to customers. It really involves managing the entire supply chain from inventory management all the way to final delivery, which most of the time is in the form of handing it off to one of the major carriers like UPS, FedEx, USPS, or DHL e-commerce to hand off to them to drop off to the end customer. Um, Diving into that a little bit more. So let's start with the receiving portion. So you could think of that in two different ways. One, the receiving of the actual inventory, typically from an overseas manufacturer, gets to the port. Inventory gets freighted from the port over to the warehouse, and the warehouse folks receive that inventory. They count everything. They put it in the spot of the warehouse that it's supposed to belong at. And then the next thing that they're receiving is the actual orders that come in from the various e-commerce channels for that particular customer. So, think popular channels like Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, but also, Amazon FBM, Fulfillment by Merchant, Walmart.com, eBay, Etsy, et cetera, et cetera. After the inventory is received and the order is received typically into the warehouse management system, that's when the orders get processed. So the orders are processed to verify the payment, that the payment went through accordingly, that there's no red flags from the order of the actual goods, check for inventory availability, and then print the actual shipping labels for that order to go out with. After the label is printed, the packing slip is printed, it's time for the picking and packing. That is the physical finding and removal of the items for that order from the shelf, packing it in a box or poly mailer or bubble mailer, packaging that up, putting tape on it, maybe putting packing peanuts inside of it to make sure that there's no loose area inside of that receptacle, and then putting the shipping label on top. And that is, officially a picked and packed order. After that, the package is sent for outbound and ready for carrier pickup. So typically, in the 3PL setting, you have these giant boxes called Gaylords where you will, after the orders are picked and packed, they'll get thrown into the Gaylord that aligns with that carrier. So you would have a DHL Gaylord going outbound, you would have a FedEx one, a USPS one, et cetera, et cetera. And those Gaylords are typically further subdivided by classification. So typically you'll put all of your priority, like your 2-day priority shipments in one, you put all of your international shipments in one, et cetera, et cetera. So whenever the carrier comes to pick that up, you're able to just give them one manifest, which is a barcode sheet of all of the orders that you had in that Gaylord, which they will take to the distribution center, they'll scan it off, and the packages will continue through the system. And then lastly, just tracking and monitoring. So, the progress of each shipment going through that system, like I said, is typically tracked and monitored through a barcode system from the carriers. So as they ping those barcodes, as it travels, across the country from distribution center to the end customer, that tracking information pushes back through the to the 3PL and ultimately the customer, so everybody can have full transparency on where the order is in the supply chain. Yeah, so that is what fulfillment means, and that is what it entails.